You know, I don't usually do this a whole lot when we start the show like this, like just kind of off the top. But I will just say I've seen a lot of fix my camera here, bring this up just a little bit. But I've seen a lot of folks, a lot of not folks in the media sphere, and I understand this happens every single time of the year, right? The Super Bowl ends or college football playoff ends, and everyone takes their vacations. But I've noticed a very alarming amount people who have been doing this here, the sort of Josh Pate style paper pop. We have had several shows just taking a hiatus, just quitting right in the middle when things are winding down. And I get it, folks are going on vacations and stuff. I'm seeing a lot of folks doing this. Like Scott Van Pelt last summer took off like 2.5 months. Now Kay Adams is taking off like I don't know, like until like what's next September. Josh Pate did it. Now, granted, Josh Pate's last year was more his honeymoon and wedding. That's fine. But now we have like Pat McAfee taking off like 2 weeks. Like, come on, guys. Like, I know you guys want to go on vacations and stuff, but I mean, like, I don't know. It as someone who consumes this content, it frustrates me. It really does frustrate me that all these shows, unless there's a good reason. Now, for us, if you may have noticed, we haven't had a live show in a week. Told you guys this is going to happen. That we had some stuff come up on Tuesday that was legit. We couldn't do an actual show. I apologize for that, but we're not like taking off like 4 weeks. We're not doing like unless it's like something medical or like unforeseen circumstance, like a hurricane or a natural disaster. We'll always make sure to have some sort of show. Like if we're going on a vacation, we'll always have some sort of like content, extra pod, a pre-recorded episode, have it for you. So yeah, kind of getting sick of all these, TV or not even TV folks, it's people on social media shows or whatever you want to call them. These like football shows or sports related shows, just taking breaks and randomly conveniently right after the Super Bowl. So I don't know. That's not us. So we're still going to continue working hard on like those guys are. I'm sorry. Look, some of these people I love. I've never met them before, but I love these folks. But these like long, like 6-month hiatus where there's no shows going on, like our channel's basically dead. It's like, come on, man. It frustrates me. But our show's not that. We don't take breaks like that, like taking off 6 months. Yeah, we may miss a show once in a while for again for reasons that are somewhat legit. But it bothers me. It really does bother me. While the rest of us who aren't making Fortune 500 figures and whatnot, we're working our asses off for you guys to go have a vacation in freaking, March and February. So, I don't know. You need to get that off my chest there. You just saw, like, Kay Adams is taking off, like, what? Like, she's not doing a show again for, like, until, like, May or something like that? I don't know. Just very, very, very bizarre. I get it. Folks need the vacation and stuff. They need to go to the Caribbean. They need to go to Cancun or Miami or whatever they go or wherever they go to. But I don't know. It's very frustrating. But anyway, this is episode, of course, 162. High atop a beautiful Chamber of Commerce, Jacksonville, Florida. Unlike, actually, I think the last time we had a live show was Thursday. It was starting to get warming up, even warmer. Now we're going to get near 80. I think this Saturday and Sunday. So very beautiful weather down here in Florida. The great thawing out, as we're calling it down here, because it did get to like below 32 degrees here. Even had a pipe burst here at our apartment building. Didn't think I mentioned that on the last show, but yeah, we did. Very, very weird. Didn't affect us, but happened at the front office. But anyway, loaded show for you guys. BIG10 schedule, some thoughts. Of course, much like we did with the SEC, we will go over the most manageable schedule, hardest schedule, toughest stretch of a schedule. Lincoln Riley, thoughts on him, 2026, big year for him, I'm hearing him. And of course, as we always do, well, not always, but what we've been doing lately is revisiting spicy predictions. Once again, we're actually getting close to the very end here. I have to check on my list. That, we have, let's see, we did about 4 or 5 more, it looks like. 4 or 5 more. I think, let me see here, make sure, mark this off. Yeah, we have about 3 or so left. Yeah, we're almost done. I think next Tuesday is going to be our last time we do our revisiting our spicy predictions, and we'll start the new ones here pretty soon. So I'll put out the message on Twitter for those of you to reply in the comment section of that post on X, and we'll go from there. So we have that to look forward to on the show. As per usual, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're not asking for much here. We're not asking you guys to we're not like the folks at the Salvation Army driving on Christmas time with a little red bucket with a little bell. We're ringing it and saying, hey, we need money and stuff. That's not us. We're not like over saturating our show to tell you guys to subscribe to the channel. We're not doing it every single 5 minutes. But at the beginning of the show, end of the show, maybe in the middle. Just a kind suggestion. You don't have to, but we would advise you to subscribe. Happens to me a lot. If I watch like a news show or whatever on YouTube, a new sports show, collegeable, it could be a Marvel or Star Wars channel, and I realize I'm not subscribed to that channel. Just help us out here at the show. We're not necessarily the oldest show, or we're not the best show, but we're necessarily the newest college football show. We've been around for about almost 2 years now. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the streams and videos when we do them. Follow us on the socials, Instagram. Not active right now. We're thinking of we're still working out some stuff to do there eventually, but that's there for you if you want to follow. Instagram, that should be in the link, I believe, somewhere in the channel description. And the same thing with the X account as well. If it's easier, just look up For Verticals Podcast on either one. You should be able to find us pretty quickly. So, and maybe recognize the logo. So, all that house cutting stuff out of the way. Again, we should be back to normal, I think. Let's have a show. Obviously, today we'll have an extra pod, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I know the schedule of the podcast feed with that. The last one we just did, a bit out of whack, but I think we'll have one tomorrow. I think we'll record one in the morning. A lot of things to discuss with the non-big show topics, if you will. Then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming for the future. Again, unless something unforeseen happens for our regular schedule. Of course, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. Unlike some folks who will randomly do it before they record their last show. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, Big 10 schedule has been released. It's been a month. Great, sure. It's been a couple of weeks, actually. Not been a whole month yet, but been out for a while. Want to get my thoughts on it as we are around this time of the year. Sort of this weird liminal space, by the way, or a liminal transitional period of you get done the national championship and we have spring ball coming up soon, but it's kind of a weird situation where it's kind of dead. At least it feels dead, but there's a lot to unload here. Unlike some folks who are running away to the beach, we're not. And the beach is like 5 minutes away from where I live in here. So we could easily do that, but we're not going to do that. Okay, Big 10 schedule here. One thing I wanted to note here, if you guys have not looked at the Big 10 schedule, is USC, the Notre Dame rivalry. God, in fact, there's a question I do have about that. We'll talk about that in a future extra pod, maybe tomorrow or the next one after. But yeah, USC has a week 0 opponent. We don't know yet. Hopefully, we're announced soon. I would imagine it. But well, we're not going to go until week before, until there's an official announcement. So that one's to determine. Rumors on the street. Could be North Dakota State, who, by the way, congratulations, getting to the Mountain West for a year. How about that? Finally in FBS after like 10 plus years of people wanting to be at it. So, yeah, because of the Notre Dame rivalry ending, there is a TBD opponent for week 0. They're playing again with week 0. Can't play themselves. They're going to play someone. Let's see here. Most manageable schedule here, and then we'll get to the hardest schedule, toughest stretch, and we'll get to the most anticipated game. Most manageable schedule in Nebraska. If you look at the graphic here on the Big Ten's website, which I would show, but because this is on my computer and not on this, trust me, we're working out some stuff here in terms of making the show a bit better presentationally. But anyway, if you do take a gander at the Big Ten website, on they have their schedule. And Nebraska, based on what I can tell, they play, Bowling Green, Ohio, FCS team, Michigan State new staff, Maryland, Indiana, Oregon, Washington. There's a bye week somewhere in there. Illinois, Rutgers, Ohio State, Iowa. Their schedule is very manageable. Like outside of Oregon for sure and Ohio State, maybe Indiana, you're only going to be dogs for sure in only 2 games, which is not bad. Consider all things considered. I mean, that's a pretty favorable schedule in terms of outside of 2 games. Again, unfortunately, you do have to go to Oregon, but you do get Ohio State at home. That's, I believe, the second to last weekend of the year before your rivalry game with Iowa on a Friday. So besides that, I mean, like maybe Indiana, there's 2 to 3 games that I know for sure you're not going to be dogs in. That's what I think. So if you're a Nebraska fan, that's a pretty good schedule in my opinion, at least to say the least. Now, grant you again, teams like Iowa, Illinois, Washington, we'll see, given that dynamic there with DeMond Williams staying put, supposedly, begrudgingly. But that's not a bad schedule. Given where I think Nebraska is right now and currently with Matt Rule, that's a pretty good schedule. I think that's a very welcoming schedule there to see. Really, 2 games you're going to be dogs at for sure. Then you'll have the other games will be, we'll see. So they have the most manageable schedule. Now, hardest stretch, probably Northwestern. Actually, no, not Northwestern. That's the next one. The next toughest stretch here is Indiana. This is now. Granted, there's a bye week in between here, but we're actually. Let me see. Did I get that right? Actually, no. That's a little bit later on. It does level off a little bit, but this stretch here, this is pretty tough. You have Nebraska. I believe that's on the road. Ohio State, Michigan, and back-to-back weeks. No bye weeks, so they have to play again. Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, back-to-back weeks. That is tough. Tough stretch. Now, outside those games, you have some winnable games in there, but still, man, that is a tough 3-game stretch. I don't care how people feel about Nebraska. That is a pretty tough stretch for the defending champs. Well, not defending champs. They're not. Well, they don't make. What if like they don't make it to the national championship? They get their trophy taken away. Last year's national champions. There you go. That's a pretty tough stretch. They avoided that last year, but the college football gods have awarded them by them being the national champions. And the past year, now they're rewarded with the toughest schedule. So have fun of not the toughest schedule, but one of the toughest stretches for sure. So have fun with that. Now notice too, they avoid Penn State. They, I believe, avoid Oregon. So that's good. But unfortunately, they get Ohio State, Michigan, back-to-back weeks there, and then you have Nebraska before that. Toughest schedule, in my opinion, is Northwestern. Just both from an actual schedule standpoint with their opponents, but also structurally. A lot of folks have not noticed this yet. Now, people have pointed this out, but their bye week is week 2. So after week 1, they go dark for a little bit, which is really weird. They get an FCS team, then they get their bye week. And then after that, it is 12 to 11 straight Big 10 games. I think it's actually 11 straight because they get Colorado in between the bye week and their FCS team. So, but after Colorado, it's Indiana, Penn State. Actually, there's a G5 in between here. But either way, they have no bye week. So they have basically 11 straight games, 9 Big 10 games after that. So you have Indiana, Penn State, Michigan State, Rutgers, Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State, Minnesota, Illinois. That is a schedule. That is a tough schedule. That is a tough draw. And again, the fact that their bye week is out early is very unfortunate because usually, if you want your bye week, and for most of these schools too, this is weird. It's like they're the extreme outlier. Like everybody else's bye week is wrong. Like what, week 6, week 8, I believe week 10 is the latest they'll have a bye week. And that's for Indiana and USC. But besides that, like everyone's around, week 6, 8, 7. So I've avoided the meme. Around that, midpoint of the year. But then there's Northwestern all the way in week 2 by themselves. And by the way, too, they don't have a week 0 game too. So that's even weirder too. Not to mention as well, USC has 2 bye weeks because they play week 0, but everyone else only has 1 if they don't play week 0, which again is to be determined because of their name. Rivalry ending, which is very, very embarrassing. But yeah, Northwestern, just optics alone, schedule dynamics, just horrible. What did Northwestern do to piss off the Big 10? I mean, I don't know what they did. Hiring Chip Kelly pissed them off for getting Aiden Childs. I believe that is correct. He's now a Northwestern Wildcat. So I don't know. You pissed them off. So yeah, toughest schedule, definitely Northwestern. Toughest stretch, Indiana. Most manageable is Nebraska, at least in my opinion. The most anticipated game, we'll probably do this with the SEC. Maybe we'll circle back to that at some point. But the most anticipated game, in my opinion, looking at all the big games here in the Big Ten, you can go so many ways too. The big traditional rivalry games, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. I believe, is that on there this year? I think it is. I'm pretty sure that's one of the, yeah, that's on there. We have Michigan, Oregon. Interesting there. Penn State and Michigan, I believe. We have USC, Oregon. But mine is one I think a lot of folks are looking forward to, which is I don't blame them. This is the biggest game in the Big Ten this year, regardless of what you think. At least on the broad, on the surface at this point. Ohio State, Oregon. Well, that to me sounds like absolute cinema in the making here. I believe it is Ohio State hosting Oregon, so it's the return trip from a couple years ago, I think. Let me check here on the schedule. It is, yep, that's on the road in Columbus. So interesting. And that's late November, too. So that's a very crucial game. So at that point, you would have, could be potentially determining, if you will, the Big Ten standings there. So That to me already, in terms of the branding, right? Ohio State, Oregon, but also just like what these teams will like. Both of these teams are very elite. Or going to be elite going the next year. Right? Dante Moore come back. You have Julian Sain back for another year. You have Jeremiah Smith, a wide receiver there for Ohio State. Of course, the new hirings for both of these programs, both that offensive coordinators and for Oregon, DC. So just branding alone and just, generically, that's a very appealing matchup. But that game could potentially be a, national title preview, could be a Big Ten title preview, could be a semifinal preview. Very fun. There are a lot of possibilities there. I mean, that could even be a, 1 versus 2 matchup too, by the way, if everything works out further in the video, because I don't believe Oregon has any big non-conference game, but they have Oklahoma State. Who cares? Boise State, interesting. That is, they were playing them again after a couple years ago. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple, I think, non-conference. And they have USC on the road. That's a tough game. Then after that, you should be favored in all those games, I think. Solidly favored in, UCLA, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, for Ohio State. So, yeah, that's already probably going to be the biggest games of the year. So I'm very excited about that. Look, it's February. We're already talking about Ohio State, Oregon. Now, there's no spread on that game, but I'd imagine Ohio State's probably going to be like 1.5, 2.5, probably, making it home field there as well. So if you're looking at a potential point spread there, but yeah, again, to recap, most anticipated game again, Ohio State, Oregon. I think that's kind of obvious. Most manageable schedule again. I think it's Nebraska. They do get Ohio State, and they do get who's their one? I think Oregon, I believe. Double check here. Yeah, Oregon, Ohio State. That's tough, and no doubt about that. But besides those 2 games, you should be favored, and I believe most of those games. Indiana was the one we're not sure about yet, but definitely you'll be dogs in both of those games against Oregon, Ohio State. Besides that, the rest of it seems pretty manageable. Hardest schedule, both in terms of dynamics, but the schedule is structured and who you're playing is Austin or Western. Toughest stretch, I think, is Indiana. Brutal stretch there, I think, for Indiana. Again, that's the Big Ten schedule outlook there. A lot of interesting games. For sure, I didn't get a chance to go over with. Not everyone's schedule I didn't have a chance to go over. But I think it's very fun here. I mean, if you look at the non-con here, I guess we can do that too a little bit. Of course, you have Iowa, Iowa State. You have Wisconsin, Notre Dame. Interesting there. Some other ones not overly impressive in my opinion. But I think the biggest non-con game, at least in my opinion, is Oklahoma, Michigan. If you want to go outside of the Big Ten in general, like if you want to go outside of the conference schedule, like still obviously Ohio State and Oregon's biggest game. But if you want to go like clear number 2, I think Michigan, Oklahoma. I think that's the one that's very intriguing to me. That is week 2, probably a big noon kickoff, I would imagine, given how things traditionally go now with the new TV rights. So that one, unfortunately, if you're an Oklahoma fan or a Michigan fan, that will have to be a high nooner there on Big Ten basically Big Ten Network. That'll be a high noon kickoff there on Fox, unfortunately. Or fortunately for some folks. But yeah, that's another game too. I'm very happy to see on the list there. And one that I'm very excited to have the opportunity to watch. So there you go, Big Ten schedule. Finally going over it. We'll probably do the ACC, I believe, next Tuesday, and then we'll do the the Big 12. So get some water real quick, and then we'll be right back. Moving up. Can't even talk. So excited. Moving along after. Let's see here. Here we go. Lincoln Riley. What do you think of Lincoln Riley and USC this year? What do you think of them, right? What's your opinions of them? I guess I'm asking here just generically, but Lincoln Riley has a lot of pressure on him for sure at USC, right? Been there for a couple of years. I got there by the way, before we get to his time actually starting it, but the whole story leading up, right? Rumors of him going to LSU, then it turns out it's a different 3-letter university. It's USC goes there. First couple of seasons, well, really the first season, boom, off the map. You have 12-1 or 11-1 regular season? Yeah, 11-1 regular season. Lose the Pac-12 championship game, then you lose the bowl game to Tulane. No shame in that, right? I think a lot of folks, up to including folks I respect, when Lincoln first got there, even with all the transfers coming, right, of Caleb Williams and getting Jordan Addison from Pitt. I think a lot of folks are like, team that goes 4-8, can you literally port on a whole new offense? I haven't seen that before, right? Like the closest thing we've seen is what? Colorado with Deion Sanders. That was incredible. What Lincoln Riley did a few years ago, back in 2023. That was amazing to see. Go from 4-8 to I think it ended up going 11-3. I know a lot of folks will scoff at, they lost 3 games in a row or 2 games in a row there to end the season. I totally understand that. That's understandable to feel that way. That was a wasted season, but you have to understand that program was in such disarray with whether it's the record, talent, structure, overall behind the scenes stuff, to go from that total disaster and Clay Elton's final year to where they were the year later. Just incredible. Just incredible to watch there, that huge turnaround. And I think it doesn't get talked about a whole lot, personally. So, yeah, that did things kind of flamed out. And starting in 2024, rumblings about, hey, is Lincoln on the hot seat? And now here we are now. Now, what's interesting about Lincoln Riley is that he has done, essentially, a reset of his program. He hires Deion Lynn. He made a mistake of bringing over Alex Grinch from Oklahoma. Should have not done that. I think a lot of folks will agree with that now. He brings Alex Grinch over. That was totally a disaster. It's basically what I'm thinking of, or what I'm getting at here, is that Lincoln Riley wanted to essentially bring literally Oklahoma to USC. Not literally, but figuratively, right? In terms of philosophy and way of doing things, he basically thought he could do that. He did that with the offense, but defense, especially for a program like USC, that's a very prideful defense. They've been an NFL factory for basically since the beginning of time. They're not used to having games, 45, 44, 51, 68, like that, kind of like basketball on grass, right? So a lot of folks out there, a lot of former players and fans weren't happy with that. The fact that he was literally bringing in the OU philosophy at OU to Los Angeles, and it wasn't working, especially on the defense. Now, offensively, they can score 50 points, but they're going to give up 60 or 70 maybe. Not literally, but that's what it felt like. And Lincoln Riley realized, I made a mistake in bringing in my buddy from Oklahoma. Some other changes too or things that he did originally, probably regretted a lot. Then he did a reset. Brings in Deion Lynn, brings in a whole new defensive staff. And the thinking was that it was going to take some time, right? It doesn't happen like, let's say, in a snap of a finger, right? It doesn't happen like that very quickly. So it took a couple of years, but now, as you are starting to see of USC and Lincoln Riley, they had just finished number 1 class in recruiting. They have a lot of talent coming back off of last year's team. Quarterback's back. You're going to have a lot of new, young faces, but talented faces. You also are retaining a lot of good players. Yes, I get it, too, that Deion Lynn's not there anymore. You've hired Gary Patterson as your DC. If you didn't know that, breaking news, I guess. But, yes, Gary Patterson, former TCU head coach, is now the defensive coordinator at USC. So I think the comparison here with Lincoln Riley and where he is right now, especially at USC, very similar to Gus Malzahn at Auburn. I ironically just talked about him last week with him retiring, but this feels very similar. So when Malzahn got to Auburn, right, he gets there, they go 13-1, get the national championship, lose to Florida State. And everyone's like, oh, man, this is great, amazing turnaround, one of the best ones you've seen in college football, yada, yada, this, that, and the other. But then you started to see things fall off. Sounds like similar to Lincoln Riley, right? You run it back in 2014, bring back a similar team. You lose some pieces, gain some pieces. Offense is good, defense is bad. They're I think towards the end of the year, they're giving up an average of 30 points per game or whatever. Drew really bad. Some of the worst defense you'll ever see for a good team, like a good team defense in college football. So 2014 was a disaster on defense. Malzahn fires the staff brought in originally, brings in Will Muschamp. It turns out, much like with Lincoln Riley, to bring in Will Muschamp wasn't going to be an overnight success, right? It was even harder back then to where you couldn't portal in the guys from, at the time, Will Muschamp was just fired from Florida. You couldn't bring in those guys from Florida, right? You had to literally start from scratch, work with what he had. And you saw that in 2015, right? You had the Jacksonville State game, the LSU game where Leonard Fournette almost ran through 300 yards or whatever, literally almost won the Heisman that day. So that was basically, that first year was like year 1 of a reset. Then you started to see the recruiting coming in. You started to see all the really good defensive players. And what happened, even though Will Muschamp left, and Malzahn, give him credit where credit is due, he, much like Lincoln Riley now, pivoted from what he was doing originally to saying, hey, defense is bad. I can't, this is not sustainable. I need to pivot to focus on the defense as well. I can't just totally ignore it. Bring in Will Muschamp, lay the foundation down. He goes and takes the South Carolina job. Bring in Kevin Steele. But back then, you have the transfer. You didn't have the transfer portal. So all those guys who were committed to you, they were stuck there. So luckily for Auburn, those talented players like your Derek Browns and Marlon Davidsons and whatnot, they all developed and they all sort of culminated, if you will, in 2017, a couple years later, to where all of a sudden, hey, Auburn's, back in the SEC championship game. They're beating Alabama again. They're beating Georgia again. They're getting close to the playoff. That's what it feels like USC. Feels like Gus Malzahn after 2014 or basically 2014, to where they had to use the reset, right? 2015 was kind of the baseball bat to the head, right? You go, whoa, man, that was, was like a concussion, right? Then you start to see a marginal improvement in 2016, and then 2017 happens, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're right in the thick of the cultural playoff race in late November. That, to me, at least in my opinion, is what I think about USC this year. That this year, to me, 2026, could be like Auburn and Malzahn in 2017, to where everything is there. Yes, change over at defensive coordinator, but you're bringing in a lot of talent. A lot of players did not leave. And your schedule, as we looked at it earlier, well, there's no Notre Dame and non-con. You still have to go to where you have to play. I think you have to actually get most of these games at home, actually, which is interesting. So you get Oregon at home, you get Washington at home, Penn State on the road, tough, going to be difficult, and then you have Ohio State. The game I think a lot of folks will be focused on for USC, to sort of kind of prove it game, if you will, to really see if they're legit, is week 4 against Oregon. They come to town. That'll be their first major test. And it's also happens to be after they go to the East Coast to go play Rutgers as well. So congrats for that. So yeah, that'll be the first test, legitimate test. Yes, no, the time stuff, schedule dynamics there of the Rutgers game. That's a concern, and we'll touch on that at some point down the road. But that Oregon game was going to be it for a lot of folks in terms of sort of like Penn State last year versus Oregon. How ironic. But I think that Oregon game for USC is going to be very critical to kind of, it's sort of a prove it game to say, hey, have you not reached to a point where you can win these games now? It's not the end all be all. And look, I'm still supporting Lincoln Riley. I have not totally fallen off of him. Do I have my criticism with him? Yeah, especially with the whole balancing out both offense and defense. But in terms of a coach, I still respect him. He's a good coach, and he's a really good offensive mind. He's developed quarterbacks. Look, you don't accidentally have 3 Heisman winners and guys who've have success in the NFL. Do more than others, some more than others, but that doesn't happen by accident. That's a sign that you're a really good coach. I don't think any coach in college will ever have like 2 Heisman winners and another one that finished in the top 5. Very rare for that. And I've been a big fan of Lincoln Riley. I love his offensive style. As an offensive guy, I just think that offense is very, very good. And it's worked even at USC. At times last year it looked a little bit different, but again, it's a reset. I think a lot of folks need to understand is that it takes time. Even with the portal years, it takes time, and especially with a program that is willing to recruit players. Again, they just finished number 1 class. That takes time to do. So, yeah, I think Lincoln Riley, in terms of where he is in his career, or at least this season, to me is very comparable, again, to Malzahn in 2017. Right? That team in 2017 with Auburn, again, had all this, they were accumulating all this talent on the defense. Right? They had, certain players coming in. They had the transfer QB with Stidham. They had the schedule. So everything was lining up for them, for folks to assume that, hey, talent's coming in. They're doing well. They're getting better on defense. Offense should be better this year. Schedule, very favorable. We need a return on investment. Kind of got it, but, it ultimately ended up having, 2 straight losses, I believe, both, ironically, in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but very similar, I think, to Lincoln Riley this year, to where everything's kind of coming together, right? Getting all the ingredients, everything's in the oven, and we'll see what the result is, right? We'll see what it is. But Lincoln Riley in 2026, I think is going to be a big year for them, I think. I think once we, when we eventually do our pre-spring top 25, which we'll do at some point for the Tuesday poll, I'm going to have USC pretty high. Probably, I'd imagine, somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. Maybe a little bit lower than some folks, but I think that's probably what I'll put them. They're going to be a very, very good team, and a team that no one's really talking about. Very strange. And a lot of folks, I think it's like me, Josh Pate, maybe some of these other shows like Cover 3, that show, but it's like very few of us are really taking USC seriously outside of USC fans. But I think if you're not a USC fan, there is no reason why you shouldn't be paying attention to USC. Like, I know a lot of folks say Lincoln Riley, whether it's him supposedly dodging in the SEC, but I get it. At the time it looked bad, given that they're in the Pac-12, and at that point the Pac-12 was both on the way of going away, but also a couple years before you saw what happened with Washington and Oregon. But you're in the Big 10 now. I don't see Lincoln Riley leaving. He's still there. He's a competitor, man. He's fighting, and I think this year is a big year for them. As we move along here to our last segment, visiting spicy predictions, the second to last one, can almost shed a tear. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, we are not the best show for college football. We're certainly one of the newer ones. We're not the best one, and we love seeing you guys, for subscribing and whatnot, and write in the comments when you guys do, and just continue to do that, right? Like the streams, like the videos when we do them. Follow us on our social platforms as well. All this is free, right? And like doing so, hitting that subscribe button somewhere down there. I think like maybe on YouTube, it's like over here on the bottom of the screen. Doesn't cost you anything. It keeps our show basically free, and we're independent media here. We're not run by any corporation, anything like that. So yeah, just be sure to do that. You don't have to if you want to, but we highly encourage it. Don't have to if you want to. I get it, but it's not a prerequisite. All right, here. Revisiting spicy predictions here. So if you are new here, spicy predictions, sort of a version of bold predictions, but taking a new spin on it. Basically, these are basically bold predictions, but what makes them different is that instead of giving them the name of bold, we just call them spicy predictions, because it's what we do is that when we get these predictions, instead of going in more traditional, right, we just rather giving them how bold they are. We go how hot or spicy they are, right? Sort of, I guess, like chicken wings, kind of. Like if you're a big fan of eating wings and stuff, there's mild, warm, hot, spicy. That's the scale we use. So hot, if you need a refresher, is mild is could happen. So it's something that we think is likely to happen. Warm is maybe, hot, slightly unlikely, spicy, like it's not going to happen. Maybe we should probably change these up, but we'll do that in the future. Maybe when we do the next round of these, which should be pretty soon, I think, given that we're almost done revisiting these. So what we're doing here is that we're getting the predictions that we got from this past summer. We're visiting them, we're discussing them, and we'll give it a rating or a yes or no in terms of did we get that right, in terms of the rating. So first one here, the SEC goes winless in their major week 1 games. So if you forgot, the major games for week 1 for the SEC, it was Ohio State versus Texas, Auburn versus Baylor, Tennessee versus Syracuse, FSU versus Bama, LSU versus Clemson, Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. So prediction, the prediction is that the SEC goes winless in their major week 1 games, right? And we sit back and the day that it was warm. It could happen. It can maybe happen, right? It wasn't impossible. Well, we were wrong on that. And the SEC, and actually, I believe only had 2 losses. It was Texas losing to Ohio State, and then I believe it was Bama losing to Florida State. Outside of that, they won all the other games. So they went, how many games? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they won 5-2 in week 1 games. So good for the SEC. Bad for our rating there. We got that wrong. I think the logic was certainly there, but very unlikely. Now this one we got this one right. Notre Dame starts 0-2 again. If you remember, I think they had, what was it, a bye week, I believe, or something like that. So they had their first two games there they actually played was Miami and Texas A&M. Very much so losable games, right? And we thought, hey, based on that, they could start 0-2, right? A&M, I think at this point in the summer, yeah, we were cautious about Marcel Reed, but like what we saw from the recruiting and the portal additions from A&M. Of course, Miami on the road. Going to be very tough, especially for a new quarterback. They started 0-2, so we put that in the warm category. We were right about that. Don't think Notre Dame's going to start 0-2 this year. It's a little bit of a manageable schedule, but yeah, that one we got right. We sort of second guessed that one. This next one, though, we got this one really correct. West Virginia makes it to the Big 12 championship game. We put that in the hot category. That was correct. That we did not see this happening. Could have easily made it a spicy prediction, even though, grant you, the Big 12, to a certain extent, very unpredictable. A lot of these teams, there hasn't been necessarily a team that separated themselves. Maybe Texas Tech is starting to do that. We'll see based on their financial stuff. But, yeah, West Virginia, Rich Rod, it was really tough, man. First year. Now, this year we'll see. I'm interested to see what folks think of West Virginia. I haven't seen a lot of chatter about it, but maybe this year. But this last year, that wasn't going to happen. They did not. They went 5-7, I believe. And they make the bowl game. Let's see. I guess let's see here. West Virginia 2025. I believe they may have made a bowl game. I don't think they did. No, they went 4-8. Whoops. Yeah, so they were pretty bad last year. I mean, look, they had to pour on like a whole new team. So that one, we got that one correct. And then finally, this one we were correct on, at least in terms of rating this prediction. Both teams, both P4 teams in the state of Michigan, so Michigan and Michigan State, make a bowl game. That was hot in terms of saying that was unlikely. Yet again, we were correct. Michigan did. Granted, they had the coaching search and whatnot, but they still made a bowl game even with all the distractions going on. But Michigan State, Jonathan Smith, of course, he gets fired before the end of the year. Just a terrible year from them. I will say, though, Josh Pay brought this up on his Twitter yesterday. Do you guys remember that Boston College game, Michigan State? Very, very strangely entertaining game. It was like, what, 42-40 or something like that? Very high-scoring game. A lot of folks don't remember that game. But, yeah, that was the best game of the year, I guess, if you're a Michigan State fan. But defense, ugh. But, yeah, that's when we second-guessed. Didn't think it was likely. Though I had more higher hopes for our buddy. Well, we don't know him personally, but our friend Jonathan Smith, may he rest in peace in terms of his coaching career. But yeah, spicy predictions. Again, the last one, revisiting segment, will be next week as we are running down our. Actually, I just realized that our. Let me see here. Yeah, I think our Spotify thing has been screwed up because I I muted the microphone. So I guess folks on Spotify aren't getting the episode, I guess, unless we change this up. So yeah, anyway, whatever. I guess, yeah, Spotify folks aren't going to be able to listen because our recording has screwed up. So we're not we're about Spotify. But hey, at least we have a traditional show, I guess, on YouTube. But anyway, so yeah, I guess to the Spotify folks, I'll explain that tomorrow on the extra pod. There was no show for it, guys. We, for some reason, our microphone decided not to work on because I muted it. But anyway, it sounds like our YouTube audio is working fine. Let me double check. The reason why I paused there. Let me see. It sounds like it was working. I think it is. Yeah, so it's working. But anyway, whatever. I mean, Spotify's not our biggest avenue, but we do use it, of course. So unfortunately, yeah, folks on, or our friends or our Spotify listeners, new episode. Unfortunately, YouTube folks got lucky, I guess. But anyway, yeah, spicy predictions. So we are done next week of those. We should be done. We'll start our new batch. Some of my nose, a piece of dust or something. But yeah, we'll start our new batch. I think probably the next few weeks. Pretty soon we'll start these. We want to make sure we have a huge list of these. It wasn't that. Well, at least the current list from last year wasn't that long because we literally just started it last year. So we'll do these again. But yeah, that's it for the show. I guess, should I bring this up? Yeah, I guess I probably should. Not related to football, nor is it related to the other stuff like Marvel news or Star Wars news or Buccaneer stuff. We'll touch on that tomorrow on the extra pod. But yeah, I've been following this whole Nancy Guthrie thing. No touch on it too much because our show's not a crime news thing. But yeah, following the Nancy Guthrie stuff, very, very sad what's happening out there. I've been following it. Hopefully there's some resolution, but yeah, been following that for anyone who's wondering my thoughts on that. Very, 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 very strange situation. So following that, hopefully things will get resolved. So I want to get my thoughts on that as we do sometimes of major events. We'll bring them up sometimes. But yeah, that's it for the show. Again, extra pod tomorrow. It's about the Marvel news, Star Wars news, or what's out there. Some questions. More of a Q&A based show if you haven't seen it yet. We had one just recently. We uploaded it a little bit late, but had one just recently. So again, our next live show should be next Tuesday. We should be back to the Tuesday shows. But Of course, we'll be back Thursday as well. So until then, enjoy the rest of the week. Again, apologies for the Spotify folks who are listening on YouTube and wondering where the show is. Yeah, the audio just wasn't working there for some reason because I muted my computer and therefore the microphone just didn't catch anything. So for folks in the live show, until Tuesday, take care, and we'll see you guys on the next stream.